everybody. Welcome back to Spectrum of Hurdles. I'm Shane.
And I'm Ed.
And we have a very special guest today, former professional wrestler, current mayor of Longwood, and most importantly, autism parent and advocate, Mr. Matt Morgan.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
It's an honor, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you give our fans a little background about you?
Oh my God, how long do you have? No, it's a long one, but I grew up myself in special education, is what they used to call it back in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I got kicked out of multiple grammar schools all before first grade. People thought I had behavioral problems and things like that. You gotta remember, I'm a foot taller than every other kid at this point, even in kindergarten. So they thought maybe he's a bully, bad kid. One of these schools one day tells my mom, this is before, like, I'm going into first grade, okay? So this is like right around kindergarten / beginning of first grade, all this is happening. They tell me, the superintendent, not the principal, superintendent of schools up in Connecticut tells my mom, I'm gonna end up in an institution, dead or in jail. That's what you tell an addict.
Yeah.
Not a mom of a 4-year-old special education kid. So anyways, we didn't know this yet about me. My mom finds this study in the Connecticut Post newspaper where everything fit me to a T, she thought. Levels, me not paying attention to class, me not being remotely interested, me being behind the other kids and learning, way behind the kids in my age level. So Yale University did this study on what eventually became known as attention deficit disorder, ADD. It wasn't ADHD back then. It was 1983, 1984. And, God, I forget the doctor's name in Yale. But he's the one who did this study. And another part of the study was they put this harness thing on my waistband of my belt buckle. And it just looked like a wallet. But it wasn't. It was this monitoring device to be able to somehow, and I still don't understand to this day how this works, to be able to predict my impulsivities.
Gotcha.
When would my max heart rate start to spike? And they'd be able to document what was going on in that day when those coinciding with those spikes in my heart rate. And long story short, between that and they tried Ritalin with me, my mom tried it for 6 months and pulled me off of it because it was making me too lethargic, she said, and falling asleep. Teachers loved it because it's finally not driving them nuts. But shook me off of it. We discovered a school that had a special education department, is what they called it back then. Mm-hmm. And ended this hall. I rode a short bus to school all the way till grade 7, and got targeted and bullied for it, definitely, by the older kids, of course. Mm-hmm. But long story short, that's the beginning of my first understandings of being in the classroom. Just me and other kids, all different shape sizes, makes and models, different ages. We had kids that were in wheelchairs in this classroom, but then we also had kids that would throw chairs at the teacher, or go potty in the corner of the room. We had a timeout even. And we were all in our cubicles predominantly most of the day. But it ironically worked for me.
Really?
I was scared of messing up in this class. So I was scared of the teacher. I know that's not good, but that is surprisingly what ended up working for me. I wanted so badly to get out of this class. I didn't want to get made fun of anymore. I really wanted to be with what we would call, this is very inappropriate nowadays, but I would call them the normal kids, the mainstream kids. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to be a part of them so bad, and even though they're making fun of me. And then once I finally got there, I got really good at sports. All these cool kids wanted me to be good friends now, but I never forgot about bringing up my kids that were in my special education class out on the playground with me. They're on my kickball team. They're on my dodgeball team. They're on my basketball team, and we're schooling these kids.
Yes.
And anyway, so that's my beginning of my own interpretation of understanding how we all learn very differently, how diverse we all learn.
Yes.
Fast forward a bazillion years later, now I'm old. I became a WWE wrestler. That was my childhood dream since I was 6 years old. Blessed to be able to live that out. Was a professional wrestler. I think I debuted in 2002, and I retired in 2014. And if you hear noise in the background, that's my son Jackson, who's nonverbal autistic.
Yeah.
So anybody watches this interview, if you hear that, trust me, we know those noises are happening. It's my son, and I apologize. But anyways, I retired the day he was born. I was right, buddy. And I retired the day he was born, and ended up being the right decision because 3 short years later, he gets diagnosed for the first time as being severely nonverbal autistic on the spectrum, right? So That's when I started paying close attention to the city, who makes decisions in our community, especially for our neurodiverse kids. And I started with the city commission, and I started learning as much as I could about it. I said, you know, what do I have to lose? And all the residents started to get behind me, want me to run for office. And this is a guy who didn't even watch the news, let alone have a political bone in my body. If I'm being honest, that's the truth. But that's what our residents like the most. They're like, well, it's good you know a political bone in your body. That means you're going to try to listen to things we want to see get accomplished, and you're just going to go do that.
That's right.
I was like, okay, that's a deal, but I'm going to need your help, all right? Because I'm going to be very green at it at first. So I got elected in 2017 to my first term. Got reelected again in 2020 to my second term. Got reelected this past November. I'm now starting my third term. If I wanted to, I could do one more term in 2028 because we passed term limits, which I'm very proud of. But I'll make a decision as we go. In our city, we do something different. We have all 5 commissioners of us. We all get elected, all right? And people get to vote for us or not, or our opponents, right? And every year in the month of May, we, the 5 city commissioners in Longwood, decide amongst the 5 of us in that city commission meeting publicly who's going to be the mayor that year. So it's kind of like a by title position, not to put the position down, but there's not, even with a mayor or deputy mayor or commissioner, there's nothing my 4 other city commissioners can't do that I can or can't do. And I like it that way. I think it's a good thing because if you have 5 people doing the listening of what the residents want us to get done, I think you have a better chance of getting it right.
Oh, for sure.
And one know it all, chest all puffed out in the air, who they actually think they are.
Yeah, and as you know, those that are on the spectrum, we have a specific interest that we're really into. A good amount of us is wrestling.
Yeah.
So back when you were active in the ring, what was your encounter with those on the spectrum during that time, if you had any?
When I go into the schools, so one of the things, not with WWE, well, I eventually started with TNA. They were big on sending me to schools, and I talk about 2 subjects. I'll talk about growing up in special education myself, and then my son hadn't been born yet, keep in mind.
Right.
But then also, so I do anti-bullying campaigns and things like that, and I always ask to go speak to the special education classes specifically, if I could, and tell them my story
Right.
about how they learn is no, just because you learn different doesn't mean you're lesser than.
Exactly.
And don't let nobody tell you that. The Lord doesn't make mistakes. And there's a rhyme and reason why we all learn the way we learn. And part of that is also to show others. Sorry, guys. We just completely break in our interview. Sorry.
You're good.
And so you go, pal. All right? Now watch out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that was part of my experience with that. But like, you gotta remember, social media wasn't big yet when I was in wrestling. And when I did use Twitter, it was brand new.
Right.
And I would use it to be a jerk because I was a villain on television. So I purposely try to be a jerk on Twitter,
Right.
not realizing you're supposed to be trying to attract the following. I'm just trying to make people hate me and want to pay money to see me get my butt kicked.
Right.
I know that feeling.
Right? So I would try to do it that way. Not always sometimes be successful. Somebody would tell me a really sad story or something like that, and I'd obviously be real with them. But again, you got to remember, a lot of it didn't come until I was retired.
Right.
Because now Instagram was popping up. I didn't start Facebook until 2020. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So what are the current issues in autism, or I'm sorry, the whole community? What could be done to fix it?
Just we're going on the right path of calling neurodivergent, of calling it neurodiversity. I like that. And people say, oh, you're just doing PC saying, why don't you just say da, 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 da. And I'm like, I think people are at least trying is my point. I think society as a whole is trying. Now, where I do see the biggest problem, or my biggest fear, is that when they're my son's age and they're cute and everyone wants to do everything they can for them and rah, cheer behind, let's go, kids on the spectrum, we're going to support everything you guys do, whatever nonprofits are out there, we're going to support and donate. Where we need their help is not when they're kids. It's when they become adults.
Thank you.
And everything falls off the steepest cliff on God's green earth. Once you hit 18 or 22, everything disappears as far as services go, and they're not the cute kids anymore that they want to donate to.
Right.
Now these are young men. My son's going to be a moose. He already is. I'm 7 feet tall. He's gonna be somewhere around that.
Right.
All right. So right now he's cute, and everyone's gonna donate to his nonprofits. He's a part of his schools, things like that, right? But when you see a guy with a beard like mine, 20 years from now, 300 pounds, he's not going to be that cute kid anymore that people.
Yeah.
And it's an extreme example I'm using to making humor of it, but at the same time, it's very realistic.
It
And
is.
he's one of a million of men and women that are going to become men and women in this society. And I just wish there was more out there in regards of helping them navigate that. Because as it stands right now, me and my wife Larissa are his biggest supporters, obviously. We feel like the Lord chose us. Made us wait 12 years to have a kid. We tried it like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Went through bouts of IVF, it didn't work. And then naturally, we get gifted with him 12 years into this process. So I always felt the Lord made us wait till we were more mature, more financially stable, and mainly more mature for me, right? Because he was going to give us a challenge and a blessing with Jackson one day, right? Well, my biggest fear is what happens when fast forward, he's out in the real world, and there's not any more structure for him, because as of right now, it's 6. Like, he's going to live with us the rest of his life. We hope that's not the case. We hope we're going to keep pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. Like, you won't believe, to try to lead an independent lifestyle. Obviously, that's our hope. That's our dream for him, if that's what he wants, right? But, you know, there needs to be more out there to help navigate that, to help us as parents, or just human beings for that matter, figure out what does that world look like and what can be done. Is it job training? Like, I found out all these other things that are out there, the different services that are out there. There's not a lot, but there are some that work with training them and trying to show them a skill set and how they can go get paid in the real world. But even when you were telling me about with what you're doing or how you live right now, like, I didn't know that. It's a nonstop learning process. That's my biggest thing. My biggest fear that I see in our community is that when it's all good and cute now, everyone wants to be a part of it. But once they become older, everything seems to disappear.
I've noticed a lot of the wrestling world are very charitable. I know Vince McMahon used to do a lot of work with Special Olympics, a lot of things like that. What is it about, do you think, the wrestling world that people gravitate to in the charity?
Great question. I knew you guys were going to ask that. Because it's true. Even online, you go online, it's the same thing. It's the same support, right?
Yes.
I think it doesn't matter. This doesn't sound like I'm going on a political line right here, and I'm not. Or an ad or something. But I don't care if you're black, you're Hispanic, you're white, you're tall, you're short, you're skinny, you're fat, you're neurodiverse, you're neurotypical. That's the one genre. It's still me. As a pro wrestler, I'm still a pro wrestling fan. That's how I became involved in pro wrestling. I'm still the biggest fan in the world today. Literally now. But seriously, so because of that, I think everybody has that same thing in common. And we support each other. We lift each other. We try to lift each other up. Sometimes the wrestling business can be very tribalistic, right? Right now between AEW fans and WWE fans, they kill each other online. I'm not gonna lie, I don't eat popcorn, lots of some of it sometimes, because I do. But my point is, the fans themselves, when they're around other fans, is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go to the different conventions and things like that. That is the most vast variety, varied group of people I've ever seen.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's very interesting.
Real different.
I like to get autographs from the wrestlers every now and then. And just like the amount of people that gravitated towards me, like as a fellow fan, it's unbelievable. It's
cool,
like
right?
I would never expect that kind of a friendship and a love to come from.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
it's really amazing.
I used to remember TNA shows that I used to go actually see you. The fans would be out there and we knew each other by name. We would be out there in the hundreds at 9 a.m. just waiting in line all day. We knew each other by name. We made friendships out there and all just from the wrestling community.
Yep.
It's amazing.
It's a good bond to have in common.
Yes.
You know, most people watching this that maybe aren't in a neurodiverse space and just are watching this for the first time, let's say, it's like being a football fan of your favorite team times a trillion. Like, you being around the same, say you're a Dallas Cowboys fan and you're at Dallas Cowboys Stadium watching the Cowboys play. That whole stadium is one Dallas Cowboy family, let's pretend, right? That's nothing. It's like this big compared to the professional wrestling space of all melting pots combined together as fans that love one another and love the sport of professional wrestling, love being entertained by it. And that was always my job as a wrestler, and I always took it seriously, which was my job today is to make that guy in the back row who's bringing his kid to the show for the first time.
Yep.
Emotionally invested in me, make him hate me or like me, whatever the character
Exactly.
is. Because how do I know what that dude's day at work looked like?
Right.
Did he just get fired? You have to tell the wife, you have to tell the kid, but they make plans to come to our show that night. So maybe this is his, last thing of having fun before he's got to break the bad news. You never know. So I think it's not a difference with wrestlers versus other sports. Wrestlers think that way before they go out and perform.
Exactly. That hits me real hard. It's just, that's an escape. It really, really is.
Huge escape.
Yes. Love me fine, hate me fine, know me. That's what I want.
Yes.
That was my motto all the time in there.
But as a fan being bullied, as a kid being bullied, that's why I connected so hard to the good guys of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
That was my escapism on Saturday mornings. On the Tuesday Night Titans came out, and my mom and dad would videotape it, let me watch it the next morning before school. That was a big escape for me, especially after school, getting screwed with and getting swirlies in the toilet and bad things happening to me.
And it's kind of just the opposite for me. I grew up in a very fire and brimstone, be good house. So being the villain was my escape from me. Being the one everybody hates.
Bad guy, yeah.
And the bad guy, I love that. I mean, I love doing improv and all. I love doing comedy. So that really worked out real well for me. I said, I haven't known many people who are autistic who are professional wrestlers. Do you think it's hard for someone who is neurotypical, didn't really know how to behave properly to become a professional wrestler?
No, they absolutely can. I think it depends on where they're at. Where they're at on the spectrum. Are they, like my son Jackson, he's 11, he's nonverbal autistic, he can say basic things, he can say, instead of hi, he'll say hi, and he'll wave like this. But does that mean 10 years from now he won't have the capability of maybe being able to put together spots in a match and understand the ring psychology? I don't know that. I hope so, but I don't know that. I think every case is going to be different, but if anybody's watching this, you're on the spectrum, and you're able to memorize things really well, you absolutely could be an amazing professional wrestler if you wanted to. If you want to get in the best shape of your life, eat right, do all the things correct, but at the same time, if you have the ability to memorize, I had a hard time with that, with memorizing. So I'd argue wrestling and the memorization that's involved in that helped me become a better actor, and I was able to do some acting things. They're always impressed how quick I was able to memorize things. I would argue it's because back in 2002 when I had to start to memorize things and then learn how to make them my own was a really important skill set to, and then I really learned, I can memorize this stuff all day long, but the more I start to make it my own, the more it connects with the audience, the more true you get.
Absolutely.
I don't want a whole rabbit hole on that, but my answer to you, short answer is yes, absolutely. If somebody's on the spectrum, there's no way in hell they can. There's no reason they shouldn't want to become a professional wrestler.
Absolutely.
And they absolutely could do it. Yeah.
Yep. So we have one final question for you. As you know, our group is called Hurdle, and we like to ask all of our guests on the show, what has been the biggest hurdle you have had to overcome in your life? Anything, any hurdle.
My addiction. I am 19 years sober from opioids. Early in my pro wrestling career, I hurt my back. And I started to become very overly dependent and then full-on addict to painkillers. And I couldn't go a 4-hour window without 100 milligrams of this stuff, oxyhydrocodones. And I did it for 5 years straight. So I was what you call a functioning addict. If you watch any of my WWE stuff, you can't tell anything's wrong with me. I'm not messing any moves up. I'm not, my eyes aren't bloodshot. I'm not chewing on myself. I'm not coming to work late. You can't tell me anything's wrong with me. And that's what made it harder for me to spot my own addiction, because things were going so great.
Right.
But I overdosed by accident a few times by taking too many painkillers, not on purpose, but just because I kept upping my dose, wanting to catch that high. But that's my biggest hurdle by far and away. It's got to be overcoming my addiction. That'll be 19 years clean. The other is that, again, I go back in time to 1981, 82-ish. The superintendent said that to my mom. I ended up in a jail institution or dead at the rate I'm doing what I was doing as a little boy, which is insane to tell somebody, but to be able to overcome that. And back then, it was like a death sentence as a little boy being called the R word and being a target on my back every day. I show up on the small bus because it was waiting. We only had 2 of them in our school.
Really?
Short buses, yeah.
Just It's a kind of follow-up with that what you were just saying. Do you think people knew in the wrestling world that you had special education, whatever? And if they didn't know, would they have treated you differently?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't think it would treated me differently. I do wonder though, because I was pretty public about it.
Okay.
Like, in fact, I did a PSA when I was at TNA. I wonder on the other flip side of that, WWE. If I wasn't public then about it, right? Because I never was in an interview where nobody really cared to ask me a question.
Yeah.
But until I got to TNA, and they list this list of celebrities on this Yahoo. Remember Yahoo?
Yeah.
People get your mail that way, your emails.
Yeah.
Well, they used to have a homepage every day, and on that homepage one day, it's listed me and like Justin Timberlake, Hillary Clinton, all these other celebrities that had ADD.
Oh wow.
And so that started the floodlight of people just calling, wanting to do interviews and about my experiences with it. But I would like to know that if I could go back in time, if I shared that with Vince McMahon, hey, just so you know, I have ADD. I mean, he probably would have said, get in line, so does everybody else here, Matt. But, because people always make that joke, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny when people found out when I did the interview and they saw the interview with me when I was working for USA Pro. It seemed harder for me to get booze. People were rooting for me.
I can totally see that. And
it's hard being a face manager. It's really hard sometimes to get fans to really love you.
Not now, if you're out there, if you're talking about that gives you sympathy, right? People care about your story.
Yeah.
And they're maybe sympathetic toward what they don't know. And because of that, they're going to cheer you, support you.
Yep.
I say how you flip them, though. If you really do want to flip them, I can tell you how to flip them. Tell them you're lying.
Yep.
Tell them you made it all up.
Yeah. That would be, yeah.
They would throw tomatoes at you.
Oh, I know. And the Florida fans, oh yeah.
Just so people watch this that don't understand pro wrestling, this is called heat. He's supposed to be like, if as a villain, his job is to get as much heat on him as humanly possible. He wants people popping his tire. Not really, don't do that.
I once gave a sombrero and a serape to a Puerto Rican wrestler.
That's our job. That is your job as a professional wrestler. If you're a bad guy, is at all costs, you've got to get booed because people are paying hard-earned money to see you get your butt kicked as the bad guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's happened. That there is a, God rest his soul, that there is a Wolverine claw from New Jack.
Oh, that's cool.
That causes that not to be fixed. Yes, I got heat from a lot of different people.
Well, thank you, Mr. Morgan, for being here.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for all of you out there, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Matt, we thank you for joining us, and we wish you much good luck in the future.
Smash the like before a carbon footprint your head off your shoulders.
Uh-oh. Hear that, everyone? And he's not choking.
All right.